The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I need help. I need medics right now. Stop. Larry, come here.
Ma'am, are you a deputy?
I was cleaning the guns. We were pointing them at each other. We were pointing them at each other, and mine went off. This is not happening!
The fired deputy who's standing trial for the death of his girlfriend is expected to take the stand this morning. We'll go in live together when it begins. And we're asking the question, what in the world will Lesie Boou say? And one of the 3 attorneys representing accused killer Tyler Robinson also defended one of the Menendez brothers. So we're digging deeper into that attorney's resume. Plus, her bags were packed. Ellen Greenberg allegedly going to leave her fiancé right before she was found dead with 20 stab wounds. And we're spotlighting the teenager who was found inside of singer David's Tesla. So who was Celeste Rivas Hernandez? New videos coming to light about her apparently very troubled home life. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We got a great show planned for you, so let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee or tea, whatever you're having this morning, or if you're across the pond, one of our friends over there, it's lunchtime for you. It's time for my opening statement. How in the world did he make it out of the academy? I'm talking about fired Florida Sheriff's Deputy Lesie Boou, the guy on trial for the death of his girlfriend, Paulina Wright. According to Boou, she was killed when he was giving her a firearms lesson after a night of margaritas. And during this lesson, defendant Boou, who's supposed to be trained on firearm safety, breaks every single firearms safety rule there is. Rules like don't point at anything you don't intend to shoot. Assume that every firearm is loaded, and never handle your firearm when you're intoxicated. This yo-yo did the opposite of all of that. He told police that they were pointing the weapons at each other and dry firing them. Pointing them at each other and dry firing them. What's more, he didn't remember putting the magazine into his rifle, he told police. And how or why Paulina Wright got naked during this whole debacle, I have no idea. But what I do know is that what these two did was insane. Insane. No responsible gun owner would ever do something like this. And Boou was a sheriff's deputy. This guy was issued a badge and a gun. This guy took an oath to keep people safe. 25-year-old Paulina Wright is shot right between her eyes, and she dies as a result of this insane event. My friends, I am disturbed beyond belief by this case. That ridiculous shooting lesson, gun cleaning, whatever it was, it should have never even been a consideration. You can go have your margaritas, but do not handle firearms when you're intoxicated. That's my opening statement. As you can see, I'm fired up about this case. Let's get you your daily docket.
What happened, man?
We were around with the guns. I was cleaning them. She's like, you need to teach me. You need to teach me. And we were...
Who's that to you?
My girlfriend.
That's your girlfriend? Okay.
It's Paulina. God. I told her not to...
Hold up now.
All right, hey, relax. I know it's a lot going on right now.
The case I was just talking about, fired Sheriff's Deputy defendant Lesie Boou expected to take the stand this morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll go in live when he's there. And in Georgia, we've got a former state trooper convicted in a fatal crash that killed 2 teenagers. I know you're going to remember that trial. Well, he's facing sentencing this morning. Defendant A.J. Scott will be in court at 9 a.m. Eastern to learn his fate. And in Tennessee, we've got sentencing beginning for defendant Brandon Isabel, who was convicted for the deaths of his girlfriend Danielle and his 2-day-old baby Kennedy. That starts up at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Right now, let's get you your top story as the defense team is shaping up for defendant Tyler Robinson, the man who's accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Now, we're learning that one of Robinson's attorneys represented Lyle Menendez during his first criminal trial.
Jury's back in the jury box. Now we'll have the beginning of the defense argument. Mr. Burt.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when it boils down to it, when all the lawyers in this case finally stop talking, I think you're going to see that the real issue in this case is what was going on inside the minds of 2 young men on August 20th, 1989.
That's attorney Michael Burt delivering the closing arguments back in 1993 in the trial that ended in a mistrial. So that was trial number 1 for the brothers. Now, Burt will be serving as co-counsel along with attorney Richard Novak in the capital case against defendant Tyler Robinson. Now, Burt appeared in court. There he is in the middle there earlier this week with Novak and lead counsel, who is local counsel in Utah, Kathy Nestor, who we've seen on Corey Richards' case. We talked about that recently. Now, Burt has also represented Eric Robert Rudolph. That name sounds familiar. He's the man convicted of killing 1 person and injuring over 100 others when he planted a pipe bomb at the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta. He's also defended Richard Ramirez, the serial killer known as the Night Stalker, who murdered at least 15 people back in the 80s. Michael Burt worked for the San Francisco Public Defender's Office for 24 years, and there he handled numerous death penalty cases. So, how will this high-powered attorney affect Tyler Robinson's trial? Let's bring in our legal eagles to talk about that. Both of them former prosecutors currently practicing criminal defense work in the private sector, Matt Timpanek and Franz Borchardt. Good morning to you both. Franz, let me begin with you. What do you think the impact is with this attorney?
So I think what you have is you have a very high stakes criminal prosecution, the highest stakes in our system, death penalty. And if you're going to do that to ensure everybody gets it right, you've got to have very competent and effective counsel. And this guy is that. He's a pro. He's handled these kind of cases before, in as much as I'm uncomfortable saying these kind of cases. And so, you know, everybody should be happy that he's the one representing this individual, because look, if the state or the federal government ultimately gets a conviction, he will have protected that individual's rights. It should be a clean record, and that's a good thing. Also, due process requires it. So, you know, I'm not surprised. I think this is the right instrument for the task.
Oh, I love how you said that, Franz. Thank you. Matt Timpanek, of course, I want you to weigh in now. Same question. What do you think the impact is with attorney Michael Burt here?
What you are getting is substantial experience. This is not a case where it's going to be evidentiary, where it's going to be like, did he do it or not do it? The first question is, I think they're going to go insanity. So you have somebody who is very skilled and experienced in arguing an insanity defense. And then on top of that, it's going to be the death penalty phase. That's where this case is ultimately going to be decided. Is Tyler Robinson going to spend the remainder of his life in prison for these crimes, if he's convicted, or is he going to face execution, which in Utah could be something like the firing squad? And when you need this type of situation, when the stakes are this high, you need somebody who's exceptionally experienced, and that's what the defendant got in this case.
Well said, Matt. You know, something interesting. So he's out of county. Both he and Richard Novak are out. They're in California. These are well-known California lawyers. Franz, your thoughts on that? Why not get someone very seasoned in Utah to work on this?
So I would guess that part of it is the severity of the case. California is not exactly in Egypt compared to Utah, but that said, we don't know if these guys had contractual agreements with that county. We don't know if it was hey, we don't have the resources to defend this level. And look, to be clear, the defense of this guy is incredibly expensive incredibly, the bandwidth is huge. So that county may not have the bandwidth to handle that. And it may just be, hey, we need to get somebody from the outside to do that. And that's why you have local counsel, and you can bring outside people in to do it. This is a once in a lifetime kind of trial for a community, by the way. This is probably not something they've ever seen the likes of. The amount of witnesses, the amount of, and again, death penalty raises all the stakes. So I'm not shocked that they have an outsider, and this may just be something they do on a regular basis when they have these kind of cases.
Interesting, Franz. So let's talk also about the fact that this is a court appointment. This was something that sparked a big discussion in our newsroom. So when a public defender's office in any county has a conflict, a couple things can happen. There may be a local office of conflict counsel. Where I practiced, there was, and so you go to that office first. If you strike out there, if there's a conflict there, you go to attorneys who will take court appointments, and that would be someone in the private sector, like you gentlemen, perhaps. Someone who's working privately but would be kind enough to take an appointment from the court. Franz, you mentioned the money being so high. I got a couple numbers. This prosecution's estimated to exceed $1.3 million to $750,000 for the court-appointed lawyers and $600,000 for the additional staff in the county attorney's office. Matt Timpanik, do those numbers surprise you?
Not really, no. When you think about this is a capital case. This is probably a year-long case, and towards the end of this trial, these lawyers are going to be probably working 12 to 16 hours a day minimum. So when you think of all that goes into a capital case, you got to think of, like you said, the individuals who are on. He has 3 attorneys. They have support staff, the court costs associated with all the clerks doing it, and all with the jail fees of having him incarcerated. When you look at it, that's not an outrageous number. It does pop off the page, but for a death penalty case, because in order for a conviction to succeed and to be upheld on appeal, there needs to be proof that there was competent counsel. And you have somebody who represented Lyle Menendez, as well as 2 other experienced attorneys, that's going to survive appellate scrutiny. So the investment in this case is worth not having to do this again in the future for some kind of an appeal for ineffective assistance of counsel.
Great points, Matt. Thank you. I want to play a clip for you, gentlemen, from the judge. Let's take a listen to what this newly appointed, by the way, judge said at the most recent hearing.
I remain steadfast in my oath that I made 56 days ago to support and defend the constitutions of the United States and of Utah. I will carry out my duties with fidelity, transparency, and impartiality, treating every person who appears before me with the dignity and respect they are inherently due because they are human beings. Let me be clear. I will not put my finger on the scale of justice.
Oh, I like him. Franz, what do you think? Wow, what a statement.
Well, it sounds good. I will tell you that it's often not the case that we have judges that have to talk about how fair they're going to be. And in fact, I hate to be this guy, Julie, but when we start having people making those kind of pronouncements, it kind of makes you feel like, wait, was that ever in question? Like, is he protesting too much? I like him. I think he is probably a fair and great guy. I don't like it when they have to make those kind of pronouncements in an open court, because it's like, dude, you don't have to tell us that. We assume that. You're a judge. You got the black robe on. You don't need to tell us that you're not going to put your finger on, like, and by the way, if you do act unfairly, guess what? We're all going to have to do this a second time. So I'm a little weirded out by that, Julie. I don't, maybe I'm off the page on this. It made me a little uncomfortable when I heard it.
Okay, fair enough, Franz. Matt, your thoughts on the judge?
I agree. I was cringing while he was saying that. In this type of situation, this is a death penalty case, and you're hearing that I took the oath 56 days ago. I was a little stunned that you have on a capital case what appears to be potentially a new judge. So when I heard that speech, I was just kind of like, that's to be expected. This doesn't need to be said. I don't know if Utah elects its judges or it appoints them, but it felt very political to me. That is just like, I'm telling you I'm going to uphold the oath and I'm not going to put my fingers on the scale of justice. That's usually somebody who says something before they aren't really impartial and they put their finger on the scale of justice.
Wow. Well, fair enough. I respect you too tremendously. So of course I respect your opinions and welcome them. I'm just surprised. That's all. But hey, this is why we're having this discussion. So let us know at home what you think. I'm going to stick up for the judge. I liked hearing that, especially because there's so much chirping in the Wild West court of public opinion. I'm glad to see him bring it on home and say, look, I'm going to uphold the law and do what I've been sworn to do. We got to look into how he got this case so early. I feel sorry for him getting that, like just taking the bench. And so maybe that's an idea for our next segment, how he seemed to draw the short straw here. This case is awful. Again, the victim, Charlie Kirk. Of course, we always want to remember the victims here on opening statements. He is the victim in this case. Franz Borghardt, Matt Tim Panic, go get some more coffee. We're going to be right back with more questions with you guys in a second. Friends at home, listen to what we have coming up next. We're turning our attention to California in the case that has people swirling and talking about singer David because a body was found in his Tesla.
I was such an internet kid. The internet is really what I claim as my home. Like, if you ask me where I'm from, I say the internet. Because I was just online every day, doing my schoolwork, making songs, making a video, being a YouTuber, content creator, posting TikToks, posting on Instagram. Like, that's really my neighborhood was Instagram, and the society was the internet. You know what I'm saying?
We are spotlighting the mystery of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death, and we're taking a closer look at her family upbringing. Plus, was Ellen Greenberg going to leave her fiancé? We got new details that are trending this morning in her decades-old case.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Now for what's trending in true crime, we've got some new revelations uncovered on opening statements that could provide a new theory into what led to the stabbing death of Ellen Greenberg. Now, her story is featured in a new Hulu docuseries. Greenberg was found dead in her apartment back in 2011 with some 20 stab wounds, some of them to the back of her neck and the back of her head. The case was ruled a homicide, then suddenly changed to suicide. Her then fiancé told police that their front door to their apartment was locked and that he had to kick the door in order to get inside and get to Ellen. Now, friend of Court TV, podcaster Joel Waldman has the podcast Surviving the Survivor, came on this show on Tuesday and told us that Ellen Greenberg's father told him that Ellen was about to leave her fiancé, Sam Goldberg.
Apparently, she had at least one bag packed on her bed that day. She was preparing to leave the relationship. She also, we find out, had marks on her neck. And her father, again, Josh Greenberg, has been very vocal that he believes that she was actually choked to death and everything else was staged. And he has an independent medical examiner who's come out and said essentially the same thing.
That was a big moment on opening statements. We had never heard that before. Joel told us that again just on Tuesday. So raises the question, was the relationship on the rocks? Sam Goldberg, I want to be very clear, was never a suspect. Never. He also has never been charged in connection to this case, so I want to be very clear on that. However, taking the information we're getting from Joel, who is speaking directly with Ellen's father, that certainly raises the question of, was her wanting to leave, if that fact is true, what spawned something in that apartment? A suicide, a homicide, a fight, something. Remember, she also had bruises all over different parts of her body that were in various stages of healing. We knew that, right? We also know from the Hulu documentary that she was experiencing anxiety at this time in her life. Okay, but according to what was reported in the doc, no reports of any suicidal ideations. So let's take all this together and have a discussion about it. Let's bring in our power panel. Still with me, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. Want to welcome in the executive director of the National Center for Victims of Crime, attorney Renee Williams. And want to welcome in retired NYPD Sergeant Joe Giacalone. Good morning to you all. Sergeant, I want to start with you, please. I understand you took a little trip recently and went back to that apartment. Your thoughts on this new information and the information that you have gathered on your own?
Good morning, Julie, and good morning, panel. Yes, I went there a couple of days ago just to take a layout of the land, because there are some things, I read the reports, all the different things that go along with it, and I wanted to just, see for myself exactly what transpired. So, a couple of things in the report, I kind of, could raise an eyebrow, so to speak. The issue that comes down to is in policing, when you're investigating homicides, there are basically two cardinal rules. And the first one is treat every death as if it's suspicious until proven otherwise. And the second one is you don't get a chance to do it right again, so do it right the first time. And when you look at it, I could see some issues where both of those rules were broken in this case. And it becomes an issue where here we are 14 years later still talking about maybe some basic police work that was done initially at the scene could have answered most, if not all, of the questions that we're going to talk about today.
Appreciate it, Sarge. Renee, I want to go to you next, please. And if you would give us some information about victims generally when they're in abusive relationships and when they're preparing to leave and maybe giving indications like wanting to leave, like a bag that's open in a bedroom where someone could see it. How lethal is that time in a person's life potentially?
Well, it can be very lethal, as I believe we've seen here. And I want to go back very, very briefly just to state that from a victim's advocate perspective, this is the ultimate example of victim blaming. I mean, you have a young woman who is found stabbed to death and we automatically go to suicide because she was depressed. Come on. But back to your question, there are so many ways that you can leave a relationship safely, and we always encourage women and men in these situations to know what is right for you and trust your instincts. So the old wisdom and the old idea in the field was leave as soon as you can. We know that's not necessarily true now, because you can put yourself in a more dangerous situation. So there are lots of amazing resources out there to do what we call safety planning, to make sure that you are getting out of a situation safely. A Google internet search, which sometimes itself can be dangerous, but lots of resources will come up in order to help safety plan to get out of a relationship, to get out of a situation safely.
Yes, yes, have a plan. Renee, thank you so much for that. Victimsofcrime.org is the website for the National Center for Victims of Crime. Tremendous resource for anybody who's in a situation that they fear could become lethal. I want to play the portions of the 911 call that we found to be kind of illuminating here. And Franz, I want to come to you on the other side of these. So again, this fiance at the time, Sam Goldberg, is the one who places the call. Again, he's saying that he had to break the door down in order to get in. Let's take a listen to some of what he said to the dispatcher.
I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. She's not responding. Oh my God! She stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell with a knife. Oh no, her knife's sticking out.
What?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
Oh, she stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
Okay, again, that was from the podcast True Crime Garage TV. Franz, what do you think when you hear those clips?
I think he's going to get the Academy Award for Worst Actor in a Performance. I mean, that 911 makes literal... Guys, I've never seen a botched investigation like this before. How in the world do we immediately go to suicide and just kind of... Like, the common sense answer in most criminal investigations is it's the guy that finds her. And by the way, now we know they weren't in a Paradise City relationship. She was going to leave him. I feel like I'm in Bizarro World, Julie. How has there not been an arrest on this one? And look, is it possible she committed suicide? Sure, it's possible. But what makes more sense? And that 911 is like the worst performance I've ever heard. Like, it's just terrible. So, like, I'm really surprised he hasn't been arrested yet.
Great points, Franz. I love everything you were saying about this being botched. I mean, it's almost like everybody that showed up took his word. You know, I'm not saying not to listen to the person who's your 911 caller or eyewitness, whoever he is, but like it was just, oh, it's a suicide, so let's pack up and leave. And, you know, and then it's turned back over to the apartment manager and she calls in a professional cleaning service to wipe down the place and it's not processed. I mean, it seems to me those first responders didn't even know how many wounds she had on the back of her head and neck. I could go on and on. It's awful. And Renee, I want to go back to what you were saying. I love what you said too about you're seeing victim blaming here because yes, Ellen Greenberg was having some difficulties in her life, experiencing anxiety. Well, doesn't half of America experience anxiety? Don't we all feel anxious at some point in our day? I feel anxious every morning before I do this show. Like, it's just part of life and part of stress. And you know, I mean, to say, like you said, to say that, oh, this is going to become a suicide because of some anxiousness that she was experiencing, where I wonder, okay, what's the real root of the anxiousness? Was it him? Was it the fiance? I'm real curious. I'm real curious how she got those bruises. Renee, I want to hear more from you, please.
I think you nailed it right on the head. Then, just like now, 2011, we were dealing with a lot of stuff going on in the world. We were coming off of a market crash. And if somebody didn't have anxiety, I think they might not have been living in our world.
Right, right. You know, this is just, my gosh. And then we also don't even know if that door was in fact broken by him. My understanding is that's still in question, Renee, isn't that correct?
I believe it was, and there is an elevator security camera where they show him alone. And so I think that there is a question of when did he break down the door, where was he, and what was he doing? And not to get into too much conspiracy theory, but if you follow the lead of who his uncle was, who was allowed in to take the cell phones and the computers, and who his uncle was connected to, it gets very interesting.
Oh, I bet. Oh, we're going to be following that lead. We're doing this segment again tomorrow. We're going to do it you know, continuously leading up to that October 14th hearing, and we're going to see what kind of answers we get. Renee, thank you so much for that. Renee Williams with the National Center for Victims of Crime. Victimsofcrime.org is the website. Sergeant Joe Giacalone and Franz are coming with us. Do the same at home, please. When we come back, we got brand new videos to show you of teenager Celeste Rivas Hernandez shining a spotlight on her life before she was found dead in singer David's Tesla. And fired deputy defendant Lesie Boou going to be on the stand this morning. We're minutes away from live court.
She was like, I want you to teach me how to use them. I want you to teach me how to use them. I was like, okay, we will. We were pointing them at each other, and mine went off.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
As the national headlines are focusing on singer David, this morning we're shining a spotlight on victim Celeste Rivas Hernandez, 3 weeks after her body was discovered in the trunk of singer David's Tesla. Now, it remains unclear how she died, and police are uncertain if there's any criminal culpability for anything beyond the concealment of her body. No suspects have been named, no persons of interest have been named, but in an exclusive interview with TMZ, a former boyfriend of Celeste describes her troubled home life and what she told him right before she went missing.
We were at PE, and she told me, my friend, that she was running away. And she said it was because of her parents, and she was like joking about it, and she was like happy, like joking like she always was, and like it didn't seem real because like she was like playing around, joking about it. And the next day she wasn't at school, and like that's the last time I saw her.
So was there a troubled home life that she was experiencing? Why would she want to run away? Or wasn't there? Was the home life fine? Was she running to someone else? Let's talk about this. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Matt Timpanek and retired NYPD Sergeant Joe Giacalone. Sarge, what do you think, having dealt with a lot of runaways, missing kids cases? Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, there's always a nexus about why sometimes these kids leave. I mean, she got caught up in the limelight too, right? So she's friends with this David guy. He's a famous internet singer and all the other things that go along with it. He's doing national tours, and I think there's just a general kind of likeness to go towards that route. Especially when you're a young, impressionable girl. So I mean, there's a lot of different things that go on. We don't know really anything that's really going on in the home, but listen, there are plenty of issues. The reason why kids would run away, and variety of them tend to go by things or problems at home.
Appreciate it, Sarge. I've got a clip. This is from TikTok. One of Celeste's former teachers is speaking about her going missing, and he's doing it in front of the class. Let's take a listen to what he says.
When I taught her, she met this dude on social media. He was a rapper in LA. He came and got her. She ran away from home. She was gone for like a month. The cops found her in Hollywood, brought her back to our school. She came back to our school, kind of told people this story. She disappeared again in May of that year, May of 2024. That's when her friends told me what happened, that it was this rapper, that they were like blackmailing him, all of this stuff. And then I found out yesterday that she's now dead in that rapper's car, cut into pieces. You want to know how they met? I feel like I just said it. Social media.
Matt Timpanik, what do you think hearing that it wasn't just one departure from home, that, as the teacher said, she had left, police found her, returned her, and then she goes again. She told the story, and we know that she's alive. We're going to talk about it for a second after the point of May of 2024 that he's referencing here. But what do you think about the back and forth?
It definitely creates a scenario where if David were to be arrested, it's a plan B scenario. It's like, I didn't do it. That body was placed in there by somebody else. And this home life situation, very chaotic, one that she wanted to get away from, along with the ex-boyfriend's testimony, creates a plausible theory that potentially her parents had something to do with that. And when you think about it, it's just horrific to even contemplate. But what we know, having done this for years, is it's not outside the realm of possibility. So when you hear it, it sounds absurd, but when you look at it from a beyond a reasonable doubt standpoint, it becomes more and more plausible.
Oh, I like what you're saying there, Matt. I want to play another clip for you both. So this is fast forwarding from the time the teacher was talking about when she's back in school in May of 2024, September of 2024. We know that she's arguing with her parents' neighbors. There was a video that was taken presumably from a Ring doorbell camera or something of that sort. TMZ obtained this video. Let's take a listen to her.
All the way up to the end? Right there. I'll tell you where there. See that door right there? Number 2, not that. Number 2
Let me talk real quick, okay? You gonna let me talk?
I ain't gonna let you talk.
No, you ain't gonna let me talk. Why you not gonna let me talk? You tripping.
I ain't tripping.
Nah, you tripping. How about you ain't tripping? You gonna let a woman talk?
Oh, what do you think of that? She's not afraid to speak her mind and yelling at these neighbors. Joe Giacalone, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I worked in New York City for a long time, and, you see situations like this go up all the time. And, yes, so she's angry, she's talking. But you know what? The grand scheme of things here is that the police have to eliminate all of the suspects in this situation. And, one video of her, yelling at people is not going to sway an investigator. The investigators are going to take a look at this. And I believe that what I refer to as the 3 forensic horsemen are going to solve this case. That's video surveillance, cell phone records, and internet records. We know that Tesla has cameras all over the car and possibly even inside. And I'm sure they already have those through warrants. And we're going to find out, I think, soon enough. And listen, always look at what the police are not saying. So when you read the statement like that, they're just basically saying, oh, well, we don't really know anything. Yeah, that's not the case. They're working on this case. They're going to come up with something. And I always like to say, they always seem to pull the rabbit out of the hat. Mm-hmm. And we just have to be patient.
Exactly. Yeah, I learned that a long time ago when I was a young reporter in Ohio, and I learned that they're always 3 steps ahead of what they let you know in the public and in the media of where they are with the case, and for a good reason. We want to make sure they're doing things right. Matt Timpanik, I'm not going to let you go without asking you about charges here. A lot of people are going, well, why in the world isn't somebody charged with something? Somebody being David, because that car is registered to him. Also, because it seems that many friends, TMZ has spoken to many friends of David's who have said that they knew he and Celeste to be a couple and had seen them together in this romantic relationship when we know she was way underage, like maybe 12 or 13 when she met this guy. What do you think about the fact that no charges, even for that at this point?
Well, remember, whenever you charge somebody, you do that understanding you're not going to get any further cooperation. So if he was charged with some kind of sexually based offense, then when they're going to try to actually solve the murder case, they're not going to get any from him. His attorney's not going to allow him to speak whatsoever. So by the act of not charging somebody, you open the possibility that he can be cooperative, whether that's help you solve the case or help him actually implicate yourself. Like the sergeant was saying, it's like you need to be able to build your case first before you can go on it. And I think that if they were to charge him with something, any cooperation would be eliminated.
Excellent points. Attorney Matt Timpanik, thank you so very much. Appreciate you. You got to get off to court. You got cases to win. We'll see you soon, my friend. Sergeant Joe Giacalone's coming with us. Here's what's next on opening statements. We're talking about fired Sheriff's Deputy Lesie Boou. This guy is taking the stand this morning. So will that tip the scales of justice? We'll talk about that next.
This is the Court TV podcast.
Well, welcome back. Let's talk about what's tipping the scales of justice this morning. We're in Florida following the shooting case involving a fired sheriff's deputy named Lesie Boou. That's him on the right. The decedent is his girlfriend, 25-year-old Paulina Wright. Now, this guy's accused of the crime of manslaughter after investigators say he's responsible for shooting and killing his girlfriend, Paulina Wright. The jury saw some body camera footage of him immediately after the shooting. Take a look.
I was cleaning the guns. We were pointing them at each other.
During the cleaning process, or what was going on?
She was like, I want you to teach me how to use them. I want you to teach me how to use them. I was like, okay, we will. We were pointing them at each other, and mine went off.
You were holding the AR this time? Well, just gonna hold what we got.
I know it looks really bad. I didn't want this to happen. I told her I did not want this to happen. I didn't want to do this.
And because of a court-ordered 30-minute delay, we're going to see his testimony live together at the top of the hour. He's on the stand right now. Okay, and we can show it to you when Court TV Live begins. So let's talk about if this guy can do anything to try to help himself on that witness stand. Let's bring in Sergeant Joe Giacalone and attorney Franz Borghardt. Franz, I want to start with you. What do you think this guy can do for himself?
Let's see. He can make it worse, Julie. So this is one of those cases where he has made a statement. It's recorded. It's videotaped. Look, this is a horrible set of facts, but it's so ridiculous that at least lends itself to a defense, right? It's so silly. It's so stupid. It's so reckless that, hey, he's not guilty of this. Maybe he's guilty of this, becomes the defense. If he gets up there and testifies, all he can do is show inconsistencies to what he previously said, or just dig a more shallow grave. I don't see the benefit to any of this. He does not need to tell his story, and this is him marching towards a conviction.
Yeah, I'm with you, Franz. I'm definitely with you here. This is awful. Sarge, your thoughts on this guy, being someone who served for many, many years, and we thank you for your service in New York for the NYPD. What do you think about this guy who was issued a badge and a gun, behaving like this?
It's an awful case on so many different levels. I mean, the issue that you're really dealing with here is he's making statements to the police officers there about basically what happened. And he even mentions that, you know, she had her gun, I had my gun, and it went off, right? Guns just don't go off unless you pull the trigger. And I think that statement's going to come back and haunt him, too. And listen, as a cop, you love seeing defendants going on the stand because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to do themselves any favor. And the issue that comes down to is that if this case happened in New York, they would probably charge him with criminally negligent homicide, which is murder 3, which is basically super reckless, where basically we don't know what to do with you or what category to put you in. But the issue that comes down to is that this was avoidable. It should have never happened in the first place unless there was some other intent behind it, which we'll never know. But the issue is, please, do not point guns at people when you're cleaning them. Make sure the guns are loaded, and you don't clean your guns when there are other people around, period.
Absolutely. Period. End of story. Let's listen to another clip from this guy. This is from body camera footage at the scene.
No!
Yeah, the years are in this way.
This is not happening!
Franz, do you think those videos help or hurt him?
Continuing on our theme of worst performances in a police investigation, look, was he drunk? I mean, that's a fact I don't know that has been well established. If he was drunk, I mean, was that sincere? It didn't feel sincere. Maybe I'm dead inside, Julie. I don't know. That just didn't seem good to me. And look, I think in the mortal words of Guns N' Roses, Mama, take that badge away from me, because this is just, how does this happen? How does this happen? And look, I understand that there's different calibers, no pun intended, there's different calibers of law enforcement and police officers. We're seeing the bottom of the barrel here. This is scraping. And I think that what we just saw is a horrible performance, and it seems insincere.
Yeah, most sheriff's deputies, the great majority of sheriff's deputies would never, ever, ever behave like this. And thank you for saying that, Franz. You know, this guy's like the cheese that stands alone. You know, I know so many great deputies, you know, who I'm sure are horrified at hearing this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get ready to watch him live together. Big thanks to you both, Attorney Franz Borghardt, Sergeant Joe Giacalone. Thank you so much for the great discussion. My friends at home, let us know what you think this guy's going to do for himself on the witness stand. So in real time, he's there. He got on the stand at 8:30, and the judge imposed a 30-minute broadcast delay for us, so it works out perfectly. You got to see all of opening statements, and you're going to get to see all of his testimony as soon as Court TV Live begins. We'll be right back with you in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.